Industrial Talk is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks. You've heard me talk about my friends at Palo Alto Networks, Zero Trust OT Security, delivering a comprehensive security solution for all OT assets, networks, and remote operations. But did you know that the Palo Alto Networks solution provides over 1,100 app IDs for OT protocols, over 500 profiles for critical OT assets, and over 650 OT-specific threat signatures? Now that's best-in-class security delivered. Learn more about Palo Alto Networks' Zero Trust OT security solutions and how you can achieve 351% ROI over 5 years. Learn more about the Palo Alto Networks solution by going out to paloaltonetworks.com. That's paloaltonetworks.com.
Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott MacKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Hi there, and welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates industry professionals all around the world. You're bold, you're brave, you dare greatly, you innovate, you collaborate, you solve problems. That's why we celebrate you on this platform, Industrial Talk. Now, in this conversation, we're talking robotics. We're talking how to apply them in industry with a gentleman by the name of Perryn Olson. He's with Rex.com, R-E-X.com. And got to tell you, man, it's exciting times. It's exciting times to be able to discuss robots. Let's get going. I enjoy innovation. And I enjoy companies leading the way. And I enjoy the fact that they're solving problems that need to be solved. And it's exciting. It's exciting time. All right. Industrial Talk is here for you. It is a platform that is dedicated to industrial professionals. That's why I say it every time. We have education. We have collaboration. It is an ecosystem that is dynamic, and you need to be a part of it. You need to amplify your voice. That's why I'm inviting you to go out to industrialtalk.com and clicking on get in contact with me and ask me questions and be a part of the ecosystem. It's all there. Again, podcasts, webcasts, learning management system, it's all elevating the conversation around industry. That's why Industrial Talk is here. So we're going to be at an event, and it's going to be PowerGen, and then in February, we're going to be at Distributech. If you're going to be at those events, you just got to look me up. We have booth, and we will be broadcasting on site, which is always an exciting time, and enjoy those conversations. So we're going to be focused in on energy for the next, couple of months. But we're always into energy because I'm a former transmission journeyman lineman. I'm always passionate about that. Now, don't ask me to climb towers today. No, oh boy, no. I'll cry. That's what I would do. All right, let's get on with the conversation. Perryn, that's Perryn Olson, Rex.com. Robotics is the conversation, so enjoy. Perryn, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Great to have you.
Excellent, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Now, listeners, we're going to be talking a little bit about robots. And you're saying to yourself, Scott, that interests me, because it should interest you, because it's robots. It is the way of the future. It's happening whether you like it or not. And Perryn brings a wealth of knowledge to this particular conversation, and we're going to be defining some of the use cases that are associated with using robots, the solutions, addressing pain, all of that stuff. And ironically, as I look at his form, be human in the robot conversation. There.
Yeah.
Before we get into that chat, Perryn, give us a little background on who you are.
So I'm based in New Orleans, not too far from you. And
not too far from me.
Actually started my career as a graphic designer, moved into marketing strategy, and built a niche in construction marketing, been doing that for almost 20 years. And then the company I work with, Rex, is Rex Construction, Rex Engineering, and we have Rex Technology, three small, very diverse companies. We went out and actually acquired Super Droid Robots last year. So always been a very much a fanboy of construction tech and all things technology and robots, and now chief marketing officer for Super Droid Robots.
So why did Rex decide that I need to purchase Super Droid?
So the vision of Stephen Nowicki, our CEO and owner, is to make the AEC, the architect, engineering, construction industry, safer and more efficient. He's a structural engineer by trade, very much a technologist by passion. And one of the things that really excited me about coming to work with him is just building out this vision of making a safer industry. And part of that is software, and a lot of people play the software game, but we really see it's construction, industrial, things like that. There's a lot of manual labor. We see there's a hardware component to this. And so we went and acquired Super Droid. Actually, eyeing it for a while. It was found about time. The founders had the company for 21 years, which is kind of unheard of in robot world. That's for like the ancient grandpas and for robots. They're ready to retire, and it was a good opportunity for us, and got a great team. They built it up to about a 20-person company, but still kind of ran it like very much a mom and pop shop. So our goal is really to come in and define the robots a little more, build out some processes and things like that, and grow and scale.
So for the listeners, let's define what the robot is, because when I say Super Droid, I think of flying. I think of the droids. Help the listener understand what we're talking about.
Well, I'll give you a quick origin story of Super Droid. So Super Droid, they actually got started by using the royalties and the licensing fees from becoming a runner-up on season 2 of BattleBots. If you remember the Atomic Wedgie, that was our founder's robot. So they used all that to start the company out of the garage, and then grew from there. So, think ground robots is when you start thinking BattleBots. That might help ground you a little bit. But we have a variety of robots, actually a few hundred we've developed over the years. Anywhere from a small crawl space robot for like home inspectors, plumbers, pest control to go under a house and safely inspect crawl space, up to police robots that SWAT teams, bomb units use, and a lot of different things in between. So most of our robots have 3 to 6 wheels or tracks. We actually don't do the flying robots, but we are actually in development for a 2-legged or biped humanoid, and then a quadruped. So that'll all be out next year.
No way, really? You guys are developing that as we speak?
Yes, we are. So that's been exciting. Changing who we compete with too. That's the interesting as we go after some of the bigger opportunities, and as we looked at standardizing our robots and kind of building out our core platforms to the platforms that we found that were missing for more applications was the humanoid and the quadruped, the dog, a lot of people call it. So,
yeah, and on your form, you talk a little bit about from an industrial perspective and being able to use the droids in a way that allows inspection of equipment without having me, human guy, go in there and do it. It's sort of that just by virtue of that makes it safer.
Well, if you think about it, our work environment is built for humans. So robots, therefore, have to be human-like to be able to work in. So something as simple as looking at a gauge that's 5-6 foot off the ground. Most robots can't do that. You can't fly a drone around an oil refinery generally because it's not safe. So if we could have a robot go into those dangerous areas, or even just do the mundane task, you got to go check 30 different gauges every day on the hour. Just have a robot go do that instead of have a human. Or we have some robots that are in like nuclear facilities, and they're essentially permanently hot. They don't come out. So they go in the wall, they drive around, they're remotely operated, and they never come out because they're now nuclear or radioactive.
So does the droid, I heard you say manual or remotely operated. So you got the individual with the joystick or whatever the tool is and working it. Do you have programmable solutions?
Yeah. So kind of the 3 words, we have remote control, or sometimes people call it telepresence or telerobotic, where you could, work virtually essentially. You have your programmable that you can teach it how to do things. You have autonomous has very different levels, from it can do a simple task up to working as more of a co-robot where people work collaborative with them, up to like an autonomous car that has to do everything independently. So there's lots of different levels. Most of the robots we do are anywhere from the remote control or telerobotic We do have some autonomous ones. In the past, a lot of our autonomous robots were more what we call autonomous ready, where they were going to be handed to like a university or a large company that had a robotics team that they didn't want to build the hardware, and they would do all the software side. And what we're doing now is more end solutions. So one of their newest robots is called the Groundhog. It's made for construction. They go do 360 reality capture across the job site, because they're now being tasked not just to do that once in a while, but generally do it weekly. It's called progress monitoring. And their owners are now requiring it in many cases. It's a task that's really fun for the first week, and after the second week, it's really boring. So essentially walking a job site with a tripod. And it takes a few hours of just every 4 feet, you take a 360 photo. So it's something we can easily replace with a robot.
So what's the pushback? What are we talking about? This is, from my perspective, it's still relatively new, still untapped. If I'm a company or a manufacturer or some sort of industry, I have a way of doing my thing, and I've sort of created that. Explain to the listeners what are the challenges out there?
I think the biggest challenge with robots is you kind of have this wide breadth of potential customers. You have your customers that are very sophisticated and know they have robots. They just want better robots, and it's kind of like buying a car. They want a better car with more features, more diversity. And then you have the other end of things that people never seen a car, and they've never seen a robot in their workplace. And it's amazing. We can have a sales call with somebody, and they're just in it, and they're talking nuts and bolts and features and what's on the horizon. And the very next call, they're like, my industry doesn't use robots. I'm like, you should have talked to the guy we just talked to 5 minutes ago. Like, there's such a gap. When we got with Super Droid, the assumption was a lot of the police departments that we were selling them their first robot. And what we found out very quickly was, no, we weren't. We just didn't do a good job doing sales before. And we were actually sometimes people's 10th robot to a SWAT team. And so it's just the level of sophistication has arisen with some industries but it's very isolated. And then the other fun part is, who is the robot person at every company? Construction companies are now starting to have this thing called construction technologists. That's kind of this bridge between IT and operations and finance, and their job generally make the place more efficient, safer, things like that. But that's really on the big companies. Little companies don't have that. So robots isn't ideal, doesn't fit in necessarily just the pure IT. And generally somebody in operations or somebody just is tech savvy, kind of like we saw back in the 90s, where the person who was good at Excel or could fix a computer, now the IT guy. It's kind of the same thing in robots. Oh, you're tech savvy and you're on a police department, you're now the robot guy. Like, it's hard.
And you're the closest person there that's a bit geeky on this stuff.
Yes.
So if I was a customer or a client or a prospect or a target, whatever you want to call me, I don't even know if I have pain, but do you have that conversation?
Oh yeah, we totally do. And construction's a little different because there's such a shortage of labor. They're generally looking for something, like just anything that will save them time, help them with any of the labor. But one of the issues I've seen in construction in particular is most of the construction technology out there is made and priced for the large general contractors, but it needs to be used by the trades, and the trades can't afford it. So that's one of the things we're really focused on at Super Droid, is how do we make robots accessible? So the one thing that's been holding back, like this reality capture robot, was the only one on the market was $150,000. Well, it's a $20,000 use case. So before we even started building our robot, we knew we've got to hit a $20,000 price point, just or lower. So yeah, our first model out was $17,000 because we knew that was the price point. That came down to talking to people in the industry, and coming from an engineering construction background, we knew that industry well enough and could talk to people about that, and we're continuing to do that.
How did you drive down that cost?
One, we build all our robots ourselves, and there's kind of two sides of robots. There's some that are very task specific, so this robot is built for this task, and there's those that are more platforms that are built for everything. So like the famous dog that we see on the news and things like that, that's a platform, and it can be used for everything, and it's overkill, and that is the only application right now for reality capture on a job site. The one thing it can do that my robot can't is climb stairs. But most of my customers that we're talking to is, instead of, if you're comparing a $17,000 robot to $150,000, they're like, I'll bring it upstairs myself. And we are working on that solution too. It won't be 17,000, but it's still trying to find a more affordable solution. Like the whole thing is, how do we find, this budget friendly thing that we can make some money and survive, but still get more robots out there, because too many of the robots that are on the market now or about to be on the market are just overpriced for what people need.
Yeah, and I'll be clear. So putting money back in my pocket, I have a cost. Is it putting money back in my pocket? Is it and me being an industrial maintenance owner at one point in time, safety was everything. Everything.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to have headaches or scare, somebody hurting themselves, that has its value.
And a lot of times safety is our entry point. Like manufacturing and construction, a lot of times we'll get brought in by safety. Like we've got one manufacturer that we work with. They had a pallet chipper, essentially. It would just shred these giant wood pallets. Well, somebody had to go underneath the machinery every once in a while and clean it. So we just devised like essentially a broom on a robot to go, somebody can remote control. We're not replacing a job. We just now have somebody not go under this giant shredder that they got to duck under the whole time. And they're basically on their hands and knees with a dustpan and a small broom. We now have the robot get all the stuff out and then they can vacuum it up. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I think the robot was less than 20 grand, but that probably easily dropped their insurance rates 20 grand a year as well.
Yeah. See, that's a great connection. The insurance side. Yeah. Because insurance companies are looking to drive down that risk too. Yeah, absolutely.
And we did a great case study with Newport Steel. They've got a huge furnace underneath there and a flue that runs underneath their steel mill, and they shut down for 6 weeks every, I think, 5 or 6 years, and they need to inspect that flue to see, okay, do we need to tear up the entire plant to replace it? So they stick one of our actually crawl space robots in there, and they can drive around and stuff. And before that, they'd have to have a human do it. And this flue is about 200 linear feet with multiple turns, and it's 20 inches by 30 inches. And
you have to wait for that thing to cool down so that at least, that's time. Yeah. Now you can sort of use a bot in a way in that use case. Yeah. Okay, it's down to whatever. It gets to it. Yeah.
Well, and it's so much safer, but also it gives them now video documentation. Is the other thing is, if a human's down there, they might be able to note, okay, at 20 feet, there's an issue here, and they'll take a picture. But now they're getting every inch of that flue is now documented in HD. So it's now that next time they go do a shutdown, they can compare, okay, what did it look like 5 years ago to today? And now they're building that baseline. So, and it's amazing those little things like that.
Take us through sort of the process of you going on site, and what are some of the drivers? What are you looking at?
It's actually generally customers come to us. Either they've had a need and they found us. We've been around for so long. We do great in the Google rankings. We do have a team that will call people in general, will call safety or operations to kind of ask some of the pains that they're having and see if there's some solutions. And we just kind of collaborate. We try to get out to as many shows as we can, but that's actually one of the changes we've added since the acquisition a year ago was building out a salesperson team, which we have our first salesperson in 20 years, and trying to do trade shows just because it is such a demonstratable product that people want to see it. And one of the things we've also seen is some of our competitors have kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths. We've literally had some police sheriffs and police chiefs like, I'm never buying a robot off the internet again because the last one we got was flimsy or didn't work, broke in a few weeks. Particularly in police, when we go do a show with them or we do demos, they were literally like, can we kick it? Can we throw it off a 3-story building? I'm like, kick it, throw it off the building once. It just
within you stay. I mean, come on.
You're an industrial guy. I think the SWAT team members that we talk to are kind of the epitome of that macho, attitude on things, and it's just it's intense when you're around them, and they want to break stuff. We're like, no, guys, this is a demo. We need it for the next team too. So it's
so if you want something indestructible, well, it's just FYI, there's a cost associated with
correct. And our robots are built tough, but these guys want to push it to its limits in every demo. And it makes it does take a ticking after a while. We've got to every once in a while bring the demo robot back to the shop and just do tighten some screws and do other things. But it's still a sound machine. But it's interesting because it's such a demonstrator, but we just can't be everywhere. It's like we've actually priced together. Okay, if we did a road show, year-round road show, who could we hit? How many things would we get? What would it cost? And it's hard. So we're trying to get more, we get strategic with conferences and, but
Oh,
still
yeah.
we need a field team to really cover the bases. And
it's got that dazzle and splash.
yeah,
If you're at a conference and people are eyeballing
yeah,
it has an
yeah,
impact.
yeah. But we also then is trying to, how do you get past the splash and get the people that are actually serious about making it work? Because that's, so right now we're kind of a real big push. You go to our website, it's robots that work. We kind of jokingly say is our robots don't dance, they work. We don't get we're not on the news for dancing robots because our robots are behind the scenes actually doing all the work. And that's kind of this edge to us. We don't have the prettiest robots. We've had very industrial looking sound robots. They're not made of plastic, they're made of steel and or aluminum, and that they're built to last. And so it's interesting to see kind of how the industry's evolved and what customers are looking for. Like I said, we have very tech savvy customers that have a few robots and they kind of know what they want, what they don't want, and you have others that just anything awes them, and almost to a point where it overwhelmed. You've had a few calls with people, we just overwhelmed them.
Yeah, but again, per your statement, you work with them. You're saying, hey,
yeah, totally.
I'm on the horn. Somebody says I need to think about or consider getting a robot for my process, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then you're not just going to say, here's one off the shelf, go for it.
Correct.
You're going to have to. So there's a customization that goes on, right?
Yeah, and we're one of the few robotics companies that will even do custom robots. That's really where we built our name over the years.
Yeah.
How we built so many models was they were all essentially custom models that we then either standardized or just the client had a single use. They weren't going to become like a robotics company. We've built robots for people's proof of concepts, and they've gone on to be robotic companies as well. Or we do some OEM work for companies, but a lot of our stuff it's a single use for a company, and they get the robot, they're good, and we can then resell it to someone else for a different use. And that's really interesting to me is the diversity of the same robot. Like that robot we put in Newport Steel was our crawl space robot, but in their world, they call it a confined space robot. It's the same robot. It's a compact robot that fits in that hole. So it's interesting to see that. And, we're trying to constantly use the same robots we use at police departments we have in nuclear facilities, because it has an arm on it that can open doors and pull gauges and things like that. So it's very interesting, and it's very challenging in the market to sell that sometimes. You definitely have to start with what is the pain, what are the process, and we have customers or prospects that are starting to get overwhelmed. Okay, what are the early wins? What can we do to just show people that this is doable, and then from there we can get bigger and more sophisticated things like that. Sometimes it is just as simple as they're one of those crawl space robots, especially in manufacturing. They generally have to go under places and under machinery and things.
Yeah.
It's a cheap robot they could try and just see, oh, we can do this.
Where do you see it going? I mean, what put your future hat on?
Yeah.
Where do you see the trends happening within the world of robotics?
I think much like we see people, you look back to the computer and then the internet and then the smartphones. There's a lot of similarities to this, and even going back to the industrial age. There's this fear of robots are taking people's jobs, and my sales guy Patrick and I were kind of like, well, yeah, we do. We want all your nasty, dirty jobs that are unsafe. Like, let's stop having humans do unsafe jobs because we think they're the only ones that can do this. Let the robots handle that kind of stuff. The poop scooping jobs. They're just essentially take Mike Rowe's dirty jobs. That's what a lot of stuff that humans shouldn't be doing, but they're the only way to do it in the past. So let's let robots handle that, or some capacity of that. But much like we now have more there's more cell phones than people in the world, there's eventually going to be more robots than cell phones in the world very soon. Like in the next 5 years, we'll probably cross that. And we're not going to live in the Jetsons world. And I think that's sometimes the challenges, and people want a Rosie from the Jetsons that does everything, or an Inspector Gadget that does everything. And we kind of jokingly call that the foot wide Swiss Army knife. It has everything, but it doesn't fit in your pocket. And that's the core criteria, is it fits in your pocket. And that's where we're trying to find that blend of the task specific robot and then the platforms. The platforms are very general, but they have more software based task is where they're assigned. If you have a humanoid robot, it's taught how to swing a hammer. You don't have a hammer swinging robot. It's
happening.
Oh, totally.
I went to Sam's Club over here in Mandeville, and they got some robot sweeping.
Yeah.
just around there. And of course,
Yeah.
me being who I am, I decided that I'm going to jump in front of it, and it got out of my way.
Yep. No, those are tasks that it can do in the middle of the night when no one's working.
Yeah.
Or
I'm like,
Walmart was
oh,
one.
yeah.
It was kind of surprised they banned it, but they had one robot that was going in that would scan the shelves and tell the people what they needed to stock the next day.
Yeah.
They would just run at night, the midnight shift, the graveyard shift, and it was just a long, tall robot that had this like laser beam that would tell them what products were in the wrong area, like somebody,
Wow.
and then what was the holes, and it would tell them, because otherwise you need someone to go around and look at every shelf of the store and figure, okay, let me go pull this in the back, and it's a boring job.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of the robots this isn't exclusive to Stupid Robot, but robots are generally used for, we call it the 3Ds: dirty, dangerous, and dull. And we're starting to add, as we get more popular with the telerobotic or telepresence, is the distance. Could you have a robot at like a data center, an oil rig, that can help do a job that somebody doesn't need to do full time? Like, say you're an IT guy. Right now, if you're an IT guy, you work in the oil industry, you got to be on the rig because you need to have hands on in case something happens. Okay, but if you had a humanoid robot that could do what you can do with you operating it, you could log on to it, operate the robot, put it back in its closet, log off, and go to the next rig, log on, and just you can have one person working on their house do that. And what's interesting too is, besides that distance thing, and because it's a lot of money to get somebody out on an oil rig, but now you could have somebody potentially work from home in a wheelchair, that the job they can never have before. They didn't have working legs. Like, there's a whole accessibility thing for people. Because if you look at because we started exploring that. If you look at like the top 10 jobs for people in wheelchairs, they're almost all require college degrees, if not masters or PhDs. Well, not everybody with a wheelchair has the brain capacity or the money to get a college degree. So could we put these people to work and give them a robot, little avatar style, like the blue avatar, that you're in this other portal, but you're kind of like operating a computer.
That's a bomb.
I think that's
cool.
Where we're going to go with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's, it should open up doors for a lot of people, but there's a lot of tasks that you've seen in industrial work. You've seen in construction and just oil and gas. And they're nasty jobs. Like, why can't we put a human there? And just it's safer. One of the biggest requests we get is tank cleaning. Industrial tank cleaning. Inside. So that's something that's like almost everyone's trying to figure out, how do you safely do it? Because every year a few people die of something going on, a tank blowing up on them. So it's those are
I saw it at a show, a magnetic magnet stuck on the side of a steel plate, which is representative of a tank, and it's sandblasting.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things like that are just really horrible jobs for humans, but we've never had a different way to do it. When they built some of these things, they weren't thinking of how do we maintain them, how do we clean them.
Yeah, freaking dead sexy. I love that, man. That's cool stuff. Well, Perryn, we have to wrap it up. How do we get a hold of you? How does somebody say, I like what he's talking about, I want to get a hold of him?
If you want me personally, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. If you spell my name right, it's pretty easy to find me. And then find Super Droid. It's just superdroidrobots.com, and we're pretty much on all the socials, especially YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook are our biggest ones.
Very cool. I enjoyed that. And now I'm not going to talk about the reluctance of individuals thinking that the robots are going to take their job. So I'm not going down that road right now. Nope.
No, we totally believe they will take the jobs that they don't want. So
yeah, there it is.
There's a lot of we've got facts to prove it. We're actually working on a white paper on kind of pulling all these facts together on that, because it is a sales objection that's valid. And at first, once people do the research, oh, okay, this isn't taking our jobs. It's actually keeping us alive. It's really what we want them to look at. So
woohoo! Yeah, very cool. All right, listeners, we're going to have all the contact information for Perryn and the right spelling for a first name, so you will not. And his LinkedIn link. Yeah, you'll have his stat card available, as well as the website to Super Droids Robots. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, Super Droid. There's no S in that. No S.
Robots, not the droid.
Disregard the S. Super Droid Robot.
You'll still find us.
Yeah, there you go. It's all out there. We're going to have it out on Industrial Talk. Perryn, you were absolutely wonderful.
I enjoyed it.
All right, listeners, don't go away. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
It's happening, whether you like it or not, and it's been happening. Robots will be handling situations that are more mundane, improve safety. You don't have to stick people into dangerous situations because robots can handle and do the work that we normally did in the past. And so you're not going to be able to, well, I can't say that. I'm not going to put any limits on robots because I think that industry is full of creative individuals. Sharp, just solutions oriented. That's what I think. So don't be surprised when robots are doing a lot more too as well. All right. All his contact information, Perryn's contact information will be out on Industrial Talk. So reach out to him. You will not be disappointed. Get engaged at Industrial Talk. It's the ecosystem that you need to be a part of. Amplify your voice. You need it. We want you to succeed. We just do. Be bold, be brave, dare greatly. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned.